Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Trader's Mind Chat live show. Today, we will be speaking with Marina, the Trader Chick. She's a mom, she's a world traveler, and she's a day trader. And I can't wait to speak to her. Marina, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. Very excited to be here.
Absolutely. You know, it was really cool, speaking to you for a bit before the show started, and over on Instagram too. And I've been going through I looked at your Instagram feed. It looks like you're all over the place. There's one spot where there's you're holding a monkey. There's another spot where you're swimming with dolphins. There's another spot where it looks out like you're in some Mayan temple. Tell us about some of the places that you've traveled to and visited. It just seems like a very fascinating life.
Well, I'm an expat, so we live in Guatemala. And when you're an expat, I think that's a perk, because when you're in a new country, you're always wanting to go and travel and check everything out. So we've actually been expats I've been an expat for almost 20 years in Central America. We first lived in Costa Rica.
And I'm sorry, what does expat mean?
Oh, expatriate. So I'm not a resident here. I can become if I want to. My husband's Guatemalan, but I'm never bothered with the process. So, But even if you are a resident, you're still kind of we're just expats, right? We're not citizens and stuff like that, right? Because interestingly enough, I was a Soviet Union refugee from the Soviet Union to the United States, but I'm a US citizen, right? So that's kind of the difference. I've been here for over 20 years. First, we lived in Costa Rica, and then we moved to Guatemala. And it just kind of goes with the territory of, you're traveling all the time. It's kind of cool. And that travel I actually run, before I became a trader, really into it, or even started my trading site, I have a website, the Travel Experta. That's why I never put my full name, Marina Villatoro, because if you put me in Google, my other site, my travel site always comes up. So I'm first a travel blogger, moved on to day trading. Because it's so easy to do that. That's the beauty of trading. You could do it from anywhere.
Do you know ahead of time, where you're going to be traveling to, or is it one of those things where they kind of move you around?
Oh no, I'm an expat. I live here. You live where you live. I live Antigua, Guatemala is home. It's been home for almost 13 years. So whatever we travel, we plan it, right? So I'm not a digital nomad per se. I can be. I mean, we do travel. Before COVID, we used to travel 2 to 4 months out of the year. Since COVID, obviously, we had to not travel at all for a while. And this year, we've probably traveled a couple of months already. So yeah, I do plan those trips. But I am, this is home. Antigua, Guatemala is home for the moment.
So that was actually going to be my next question. What has it been like traveling during COVID?
Yeah, so here Guatemala was, excuse me, really, really strict. Really, just stupidly strict. They couldn't figure out what they were doing. But we were on lockdown sometimes weekends from Friday 11 a.m. till Sunday, midnight. It was just crazy, stupid stuff. So you couldn't really go anywhere. You couldn't even go outside of your departamento. That's what they call, some places they have boroughs, some places they have counties. Here, everything's departamentos. So it was kind of interesting to be at home with my family. It was actually really fun. We had a lot of fun, but we didn't travel per se. And then once they opened up the borders, you just have to do a lot of testing, nonstop testing. You have to do your PCR or antigen. You have to have vaccine cards. You can't go here without that. So you just kind of juggle it, I guess you could say, right? And it's actually been nice. I don't know if you've traveled since COVID, but the airlines, pretty empty. It's very, the airports are empty. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, we actually went to Disney earlier this year, they um, just before they eased up on the self quarantining, right? Like, so you would have to quarantine for 2 weeks or something like that, and so we were able to book the airlines, book the Disney, like get all the uh, like the special restaurants and all that, and then they lifted the restrictions, and then like it was very difficult to travel. So like it just it helped
Yeah, it
booking
helps
a lot of
so
things.
much. Yeah, so you had Disney to yourself. It's funny, we have an amusement park here. Actually, Guatemala has the largest amusement park in all of Central America. And my son's birthday was in April. So me and like 3 other families, like all his buddies, we went, and the whole place was to ourselves. It was right after they kind of let you go, but you were still not permitted to go. I was like, it was as if though we rented the whole amusement park for 3 days and it was all to us. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like there's nothing that could top that. I don't think I could go to another amusement park unless I rent it out.
Here's a question from Manos. Manos is asking, are you full-time trader and traveler?
So I know we live here, so I don't want to say full-time anything. I don't believe in being a full-time trader. I don't If you are a full-time trader, it's not sustainable because it's just too much information, and our our minds, because you have to be so on all the time when you're trading, right? Like I could only manage 30 minutes to an hour, and after that my brain is just mush, and what happens is you become an emotional trader. And what does that mean?
Mm.
It means you start to make bad decisions, right? So for me, an hour, I'm pretty much done. Right. When I first began, I was trading, I was sitting in front of my charts for 10 hours a day, and it was horrible. I was completely burnt out. I was a nervous wreck. So if I don't think anyone should aspire to be a full-time trader because it's not sustainable, but full-time might be to somebody an hour every day. And if you have your strategy, if you're doing really well,
Mm.
you could be done in 30 minutes to an hour, and boom, you've got the full day to yourself. So you can have all, fun. And that's the coolest part about trading. And you could do it from anywhere as long as there's
So
internet,
know
right?
thyself.
Yeah, you have to know yourself. And that takes a while, right? I always say we're like, we're like cell phones or smartphones where we have batteries that deplete, but we don't know, our phones die, but we could continue, and we continue in a bad way, right? So emotional trading becomes really prevalent when you are depleted. And you could be winning
Yes.
all day, but that still drains your energy. So the next time you might take that trade, you're already depleted, even if you've won, and you could be the big loss, and that could really just tip you over, right? So yes, know thyself is a perfect way. I know what my threshold is. I know now, I've been doing it for 10 years. So it wasn't easy in the beginning. A lot of learning. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
hard.
I bet we'll get into that for sure. But that you mentioned energy. I'm curious to hear, like, how do you manage your energy? Like, I've been big into this myself the past several years, and even more so now. Like going as far as like getting a personal trainer and like getting like other people around me that can help get to the next level of physical fitness. Like I'm curious to hear like how do you go about managing your energy and yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, for me, mainly, so I trade now the second part of the I do the afternoon session because I am in Guatemala. We don't get daylight savings time. Right now, we're an hour behind, but sometimes, we're 2 hours behind. So I just now stick to the afternoon schedule. So this way I don't rush to my charts anymore. I used to be here obsessing at 6:30 in the morning. So at this point, I've sent my kids off to school, walked the dogs, I drink tea. You kind of put yourself into a space where you are ready for it, right? Because if you jump in, your energy is already off. Like it's the wrong energy you're bringing in because now you're rushing. Now you want to chase a trade and it goes the wrong way. So, and then sometimes if I have a chance, I do my exercise beforehand. If not, it's okay. I'll do it afterwards. But I have to come to my trading space mentally prepared. If anything happens, you can't do it, right? You can't pretend that you're going to get it right. Like my husband had a really massive accident a couple of months ago from climbing. There is no way I could have done anything. I was emotionally, and my energy was drained. Like, and that I really recommend that for traders and even people who are kind of investing or something. If you have some problem going on, emotional problem, I do not recommend entering. I don't recommend going into the market because your energy is completely off and your mental game is completely off.
Yeah, I wish I had remembered that advice after my daughter was born. Actually, like uh, I was like I've been trading now for 20 something years, and my daughter's now she's 6.5. She'll be 7 in May. After she was born, like my equity curve was moving up and to the right, or up and to the right. I think it's this way.
Yeah.
But then after he was born, like it started to bounce around, right? And just like, well, what's going on? I'm doing the same things, aren't I? Well, no, duh. Like you're a brand new dad, and you have all these other things going on now, and so it does affect you. So it's solid advice. Like, well, when there's other things going on in your life, it be aware of it, assess it, and take a step back and see how it's going to affect your trading and your
Yeah, it's not the
finances.
place to get lost in and forget your troubles. You'll
Yeah,
just be
no.
adding a lot more troubles.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Um, so so tell us how did you get into day trading? And you said that you got into it 10 years. So take us on that journey.
So I've always been interested in the financial markets. It's something that I've been doing all my like since I think I was 20. I've been in and out of financial markets, never day trading because back, in the day before internet, it was really hard because you had to get on the phone with your broker. You were only able to look at the tickers on like in the Wall Street Journal. I mean, it wasn't really conducive for day trading, but I've always
Mm.
been investing. Um, and I've just loved it. And when we first moved to Costa Rica, right after my oldest son was born, we started to travel all over Costa Rica, and I started to write a blog. This is when travel blogging was totally new, and I started writing about traveling in Costa Rica with the family, and nobody back then did that. And all of a sudden, I got all these people from all over the world. Oh my gosh, you're actually in Costa Rica. You're doing it with a kid, which is really interesting. Can you help me plan my trip? And all of a sudden, my little, hobby turned into a business of travel planning for Costa Rica and running the travel blog. And I kind of right around when I was about to turn 40 years old, so I was 39, I came to, I guess, a fork in my virtual world. Like, do I want to really take my travel business much further? I was doing really, really well, or do something else. And I was burnt out. It's a lot of work.
Mm.
It was not the travel industry that I wanted to do. I love to travel and write about it, not really organize and do other things. So I was like, no. So what is it that I really love and what do I want to do? And I was like, I've always loved the financial markets. I want to actually learn how to day trade. So for my 40th birthday, I gifted myself with an academy that I joined and started to completely become crazy obsessed. So the first 5 years were not very good, sustainable or anything. And when I started to realize that you could really make it simple, and do one chart, one instrument, and just really enjoy the process rather than become, like there's so many myths about how day trading should be, but take it slow.
Mm.
It changed everything. So yeah. And I'm going to be 50 in 5 months. So that's why it's almost 10 years.
Ah, happy early birthday. So that's really interesting that like how you first you found the academy and you started to learn with a group. So kudos to you on that, because I'm the person that like was trying to figure all this stuff out on my own, and then fell on my face, and then a decade later started to find a group and get that kind of coaching. So so well done there. But it's interesting that you were with that group and then later on found out, okay, simplified. So did the group teach you to simplify, or that's something that you came up to on your own, or you heard it from somebody else, or that how did you get to
I'll be
that
honest with
stage?
you, that academy, I spent over $20,000 on my education. It was not good for me on my own at all. So a lot of academies, a lot of people, I think, selling different courses, they don't actually teach you anything. They just want you to go with their strategy. And a lot of times their strategy, you don't even know what you're doing. And a lot of times it just doesn't really work with what you even feel aligned to you.
Mhm.
So it was where the majority of my losses came. You did it on your own and lost. I was paying and losing. um, so yeah, at one point I was just following somebody else's trade. I had no idea what was going on, but everybody in the group was like, yeah, go for it. I don't know if it's true. It might be moderators. And I was following these trades, chasing them. It was bad. And I just kept on losing. And I finally lost like $4,000 within a few minutes. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was completely defeated, but I couldn't permit myself to be defeated. So the next 2 days I revenge traded and lost another 2,000. And that's when I was like, I had a breakdown. But I'm like, and I totally walked away for like this was like 7 years ago, 8 years ago almost. And I just walked away. I was, I couldn't do it anymore. It was all wrong. And the thing is like, I knew deep down that I know that I could figure this out. Like if others are doing it, it cannot be that complicated, right? And at that point, like the academies they were teaching, I had different ones, many different indicators, many different charts. So what I decided to do after 4 months, I think I came back and I just literally I had 3 monitors and I took two. They were new monitors and I put them outside for the garbage men to do whatever they want with them. I stripped my charts. I went down to one chart, completely cleaned out the indicators. And then I was just focusing on something that no one actually talked about. And that was the basics of trading, like the super basic stuff, understanding even reversal patterns, support areas. Nobody was teaching. Every time I was asking that, people would just either ignoring me or I was like treated like I'm supposed to know this. And I feel like with a lot of academies, the analogy I like to think of is when you want to learn an instrument, a musical instrument, and when you arrive to, I don't know, the conservatory or whatever, wherever people learn music, instead of being in the first class of how to hold the flute, you're thrown into the symphonic pit and you have to follow along with these musicians, and it's not possible. And I feel like the majority of places, that's how they go about things and never teach you even how to hold your flute before, all right, now go and play the sonata. So,
Hmm.
and that's where I think a lot of struggle happened for me, especially. And that's when I came back, I was like, all right, I'm going to actually take it from step one and taught myself all of that. And then I realized you don't need to take a lot of trades. I became a very conservative trader, 1 to 3 trades. That was it. I mean, how much do you really need, right? We all think of trading as making money, but it's not. It's about making the right decisions. And you can't make the right decisions if you're not in the right state of mind and if you don't even know what you're looking at. So that's been my journey. And I've really simplified it. And I have fun with it now. It's enjoyable for me as well. So that's a
And
big difference.
can you take us into the weeds a little bit into like what that process was like? So were you like did you have a trading journal like a paper or a spreadsheet or something where you're like logging and trying to figure out like, is this working, is this not working, like what should my sizing be, like all that kind of stuff, like how did you figure that out?
So I'm a huge believer in backtesting. I don't like Excel. I don't even know how to use it
Okay.
at all. So I literally I went through all of these. I'm sure every single person who wants to trade went through this. You have your emotional journal, how you're feeling. And you know what? When you're losing big, you do not want to talk about how you're feeling. You're feeling like shit. Like that's a given. So you don't want to get into that. So what I just realized was I started to have different trade setups. So it's not like, let me evaluate my trading day. It's let me evaluate each different setup because the market is so different all the time. So you're not going to be entering similar trades. They're going to be separate, different trades, right? When you're
Mm.
driving a car, if you're driving on a cul-de-sac, you're not going to use the same method that if when you're driving on the Autobahn, right? And it's the
Okay.
same, like every single condition has its own different setup. So I decided to start giving those setups names and seeing how much they work out. And I was literally using the, like the little stick thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That
Right.
was
Right.
but it's data. At the end of the day, it was all about the data. Okay, so this particular trade has been working out 70% of the time. This setup has been working out 50. It sucks. Oh wait, this one is 85%. But over a period, I went a little bit above and beyond because my wounds were so raw. I gave myself 90 to 100 trading days of doing back testing for every single type of trade setup that I was finding. And it took me a while. It took me maybe like a year and a half to really start to find. I came up with 10 that I absolutely love. Some of them are 90% when they are there. So I don't look at anything that's less than 80%, right? And that's how it kind of worked out for me. But absolutely, if you're not keeping track of your trades, you're not really trading. You're just donating your money to the market because you don't know if it's a good trade or not, right? Our memory is really tricky. It will play really bad tricks on us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like a common thing that, like I said, I hear the so many times that people saying too is that like treat the market like you're the casino, like, and so you're the one that's going in with an edge, and it's just a matter of working this thing over and over and over again. Just like if you were to flip a coin and get $2 on heads and lose $1 on tails, you'd flip that coin all day long. Like that's what we want to try
Yeah,
to drive toward.
yeah,
You have the edge.
exactly. You need that
Um,
edge. It's about the game of numbers, right? It's literally probabilities. And you always want to be on the right side of the market.
um, Something that you mentioned earlier too about trading full time, and that you don't recommend it. Um, One of the things that I was going to ask you was that like a common fear is that people leave their job and that they'll just trade and it's unstable. So like is that something that you found out? Um, like by trying to trade full time and it's unstable, and then moving to multiple streams of income, or what would you recommend that people do that want to try to get into this?
So there's different platforms. First of all, you need to decide what you're going to be trading, right? Trading is not like investing. I do not recommend having a diverse, trading portfolio because you shouldn't even have a portfolio for trading. It should be pretty
Mm,
specific of what you want to do because trading crypto is not going to be the same as trading futures. And if you're trading stocks, trading big caps is not the same as trading penny stocks. So you really need to get really, really laser focused in the beginning and master that one thing. Or, if you're going to do two things,
so passive
focus on that one, focus on the other. So that is something that you need to start be like you need to know that before you decide to especially quit your job and go trade. Like nobody should do that. It's kind of like going
mm,
from full-time job to a side hustle that you don't know if it's going to work out yet, right? You need to first
mm,
put your feet in it. You have to really understand what you're doing. So once you decide what you're going to be trading, there's different platforms for it, right? So I recommend learning your platform because it amazes me the amount of people that all of a sudden, like for instance, you use TradingView, but you don't trade off of TradingView. Some platforms, like I use Ninja, and you could, excuse me, trade right off of Ninja, but you should learn how that process works. You don't want to be putting your real money into putting in, getting in and out. And you don't have a clue. Sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, I lost all this money because I sold when I was supposed to buy. I'm like, why aren't you practicing this in sim? You can do all this in simulation. None of it needs to be, it's like a Formula, because you want to be a Formula One driver. You're not going to be in a Formula One race the very next day. You need to, you could learn all this, right? So the one little benefit of Ninja Trader is that you could do a market replay feature. I don't know if TradingView allows you to do that, but you could go and put a market replay and everything that happened during the live market any day of that week, year, whenever, you could do it on your time, after work, on a weekend, in the morning. So it's as if though you are in the live market, but you're just practicing what you're learning. So you're not technically in it. So by the time you actually get in to live trading, you should have a lot of practice already. It's not going to be just, I'm guessing, oh, let me try this, I'm quitting my job. I mean, that's crazy. It's the most risky thing you could do, right? It literally is, especially, and unfortunately, there's no barrier to entry. Just because you said you want to be a doctor, the next day you're not in the operating room, operating on a live human. There's a process. But with trading,
Could you
as long as you have
imagine?
a little bit of money, but people don't get that. It's the same thing. Like, it's okay for a person who's going to operate on you to have actual education in it, but let me take all my money and make $1 million the next day. That's why if that was so easy, we'd all be doing it.
So, well, what percentage of capital do you think that people should use, or if somebody was going to start trading, like, yeah, what would be a good amount? Like, that's a common question. Like, how much money should I start with?
Well,
I'm
it
curious to hear
depends
about what
on how much money
your
you have.
thoughts are on this. What was that?
Well, it depends, how much money you have, right? Everybody is so different. Honestly, so I trade mainly futures. So futures works a
Okay.
lot different than stocks or crypto, right? Like, you don't have
Okay.
to put up that investment like you would if you want to do a stock. Let's just do this, right? So you want to trade, let's say you want to trade Apple. No matter what you're going to do, you have to cough up the share price before you could even consider making any money above that, right? So if you have enough for 10, let's say $2,000, that could be pretty good, right? Futures,
Mhm.
which is kind of cool about futures, especially, I shouldn't say futures, I'm strictly E-minis, which is the S&P 500. And you can literally start with $50 per trade, but you do need to have a certain amount per contract. I think it depends. It's been varying because of COVID, but you could start with 1,000 to 2,000 as well. The reward is much bigger than if you were to buy like Apple, because the majority of the money goes into, first even entering the market. So you have to understand what feels good for you. Do you have $2,000 to $5,000 to start, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to make so much money, I can't even afford, a $20 stock. I'm like, it's never going to happen. You can't make, it's not a world where you have 20 bucks and you're going to come out a millionaire. You need to kind of have some money up front, but I would recommend between $2,000 to $5,000. And I call it play money, because in the beginning, you're probably gonna lose a lot. It's just how it goes. It doesn't matter if you've been practicing for years and really know. The universe has a funny way of treating you when you go live. You end up losing. It's like testing you right from the bat. So I recommend between $2,000 to $5,000 play money, not your rent, not your
Mhm.
child's food, not your medical money. And I know that this sounds kind of logical, but the amount of people that write to me, they're like, you don't understand. My father is super ill. I have to do this. I'm like, but you don't know what you're doing. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I have to pay for his
Mhm.
medical bills. And when you're in that state of mind already, that money is gone. Before, like, you might as well just take that money and donate it, because it's gone. So you really need to understand it's play money. And I think play
Yeah,
money is critical.
like that was a lesson that I learned the hard way. Is that a lesson that you learned the hard way too?
Oh, I've learned many hard ways. I've learned many, many hard ways. Unfortunately, with trading, if you want to eventually succeed, you're going to have quite a lot of lessons. I never played with like our rent or medical stuff, but I got pretty down there.
Mm.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
really, it's hard.
Yeah, so setting a budget for your trading, like earmarking specific money that's just dedicated to trading and
Yeah.
nothing else. So there's so that you're taking away the emotional attachment from that money, right?
Yes,
Like so,
absolutely.
like this isn't the money that's going to save my sick relative, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just there for trading, and you could let your trade do what it needs to do. Like you're not trying to demand something from the market.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And that's huge. It's so another little hack that I found for myself because I
Okay.
trade futures. I have a broker just for my trading. So with futures, you have to have a certain amount per contract. You cannot, it's called margin. It's not margin like it is with equities. I'm not going to get into the technicals of it. So I always keep, like, for instance, if I trade and I have a profit, that day immediately I remove my profit, put it into my other account, so I'm back to the minimum. This way I could never lose a lot as well, right? Because so what I have, let's say $5,000, I can never lose more than $5,000 because I don't have any more money. I'm never on a margin account. I'm never permitting the brokers to lend me money. So that's another little hack that I've found for myself. After a day of trading, I immediately move the profits. What is it, ACH or something like that? It's a free. Everybody
Mhm.
could do, boom, into my main account. I don't touch it. So that's my little way as well of, I guess, hedging my wins. I don't know, hedge, like protecting myself.
Mhm. Um, I'm because you mentioned like two different accounts. Like, are you running multiple strategies, or is there like one strategy that you run, or oh, well, what?
No, so I don't know if you get this question, but whenever I say to people, oh, I day trade, oh, I want to learn how to invest. And I'm like, to be honest with you, I day
Mm,
trade to
got it.
invest. So I move my
Right.
day trading money into my investing portfolio, which is very different, right? It's an entirely different mindset view because I hold stuff for years there, right? So that's what I do. I move from that account, from my trading account, into my investing account or my crypto account, whichever. I don't trade crypto. Crypto is for also investing for me. So that's what I do it, how I do it.
That's fantastic, and that's a great point too, because so many people will try to do everything in just one account. Right, like so, I'm day trading, I'm swing trading. I have some long-term investments all in this one thing, and well, when you have so many strategies commingled in one spot, like it's very easy to get confused, uh, apply the wrong set of rules to something, look at an idea from a different perspective, and yeah, like keeping things segregated in that way is very, very helpful.
Yeah, I do not recommend having your day trading with your entire account because you could lose it all. And that is just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. So separate it. Definitely keep it separate.
So I'm seeing some more people pop into the live stream, both over here and over on ShareVision. I want to say welcome to the people that are hopping in live. If you guys have questions as we're going along,
Hi,
please
everybody.
type into the chat, let us know, and we will answer your questions. Um, Another question that I have, though, that's come up quite a bit is that so many people struggle with day trading when they're out of their routine. And so, as somebody that travels, I'm curious to hear about your trading routine and well, what it's like, the prep, the day to day, the weekend routines, if there's any. What do you do?
So I don't trade on weekends simply because the E-minis really is a US market. So it really is more volatile during US hours. I call it Wall Street hours. Um, so because I only trade for such a short period of time, and if we are traveling, one thing that I do recognize now, like when I used to travel like 7 years ago, I used to go to places and want to do everything, like all these different tours and this and that. Like it was just too jam packed until we had a huge trip and we were all burnt out. So now it's very slow travel. We don't have that much going on. We hang out in a place for a long time. So it's much easier for me. Like, and also my kids are older. So that's also
Mm,
important, right? You have to understand if you're going to be traveling and you have toddlers, it's not going to happen. Unless you have a nanny with you, then kudos for you, but it's never going to happen. Right. So my kids are older. They are able to do things on their own. Sometimes they go out with their papa all the time, like, so I have my time. I could sit and
mm,
do whatever. Because again, I'm only for like an hour. I'm only giving the market about
Okay.
an hour and a half. So it's doable, right? So my routine is actually quite simple. Like when it's time for me to sit, I have to clear my mind. It's very mindful act for me. I'm not just like all over the place. Um, so I also do meditation beforehand. So I just get in the zone. I make sure there's no interruptions. If there's even going to be an inkling of interruption, I don't want to risk it. It's not worth it anymore for me to be jumping in the market, right? Because there's always another trade coming. I'm not going to miss out on anything in particular. So that's important for me. So you need to, if you are going to be traveling, you know thyself. Are you really going to be
Mhm.
able to do it when you have a 3-year-old, who wants to sit on your lap? I don't think that's a good idea. So you have to play it out. If you have that chance to, maybe your spouse and your kids are going to go to the movies and you want to, I'd rather not go to the movies or whatever. Go to the pool and you'd rather, what, I'm going to go and hang out and do my trading for that hour, right? A lot of markets are 24 hours today. Some markets are only Wall Street time, that I call it. So you need to know what market you're also trading and how to work with it, right? That's really important.
Interesting. So I'm curious to hear too. So let's say that you execute a trade and the trader is running and it's just continuing to trend and you're at your hour mark or your 90-minute mark and it's still going on. Like, will you just like say, okay, I'm done taking it off and like, if I miss out on additional gains and that's it? Or what do you do in a situation like that?
Well, I'm a scalper. My trades don't go
Oh,
for more
okay.
than 30 seconds to 3 minutes. So it's pretty
Okay.
quick. They're usually, if I'm already in a trade, I've also done the due diligence. I know that it's going to be, it's a trade that I always say, the warrior dies before the battlefield. So I kind of do my death before I enter the trade. Like I've done the work at this point. I always have my risk in place, my target in place, and I don't really move it unless I do a split target. And I don't do that much anymore. It's too much work on my part. I'm just, I'm good with that. So my trades are really, really quick. And if I'm sitting around and the market is boring, if it's just, being choppy and decisive, I don't bother anymore. It's like watching paint dry. It's boring. I
Hmm.
like volatile markets. I like when it's moving.
All right. So, what do you think about the current market?
Oh my gosh, it's so volatile. It's amazing. 2 weeks before, it was flat and dead and boring. And it's been amazing. It's like a redo of, March 2020. Massive collapse, and then all of a sudden it's off to the races. Um, so it's been amazing, amazing everywhere actually, which, it's been fun to watch. It's been fun.
Yeah, that it's so fascinating, right? Like for for one style out, like it's the best environment. For another style out, like it's the absolute worst. So
Yeah.
like it's really is like know yourself, know your style, know like well what the best conditions are for you, and then just like when the stars align, go in and execute. And otherwise, you know, sit and wait. Like it's well one of the few games where you don't have to play all the time. You could just play when it's the
Yes.
best time.
Yes, absolutely. And I always say that, a lot of people are like, well, I'm sitting here right now. I need to do something. So they get in the wrong trades. I'm like, if you're surfing and you take your vacation to Hawaii, the North Shore, and it just happens to be a dead week, what are you going to do? You're not going to force Mother Nature to give you a wave. You can't force the market to do something, right? You just can't. It's going to do what it's going to do. And you trying to bend it is never going to happen. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to empty out your bank account. So yeah, you have to understand sometimes it's going to be nothing. Sometimes you could get 5 trades in a minute. Well, not in a minute, but in 30 minutes. It's super rare, but it can happen, right? So you have to go with what is happening in front of you. Otherwise, you'll just be miserable.
Couldn't agree more. And that was a great analogy. Well, with the Hawaii, like I'm going to take that one for sure. Definitely borrow it and give credit where credit's due. How can people simplify their trading?
So the biggest
Well, what are
problem
some of the big
I'm
things?
seeing, the biggest problem I'm
Okay.
seeing is, first of all, too many charts. and too many indicators. And sometimes when I ask people, okay, so why are you using this indicator? I don't know, but this guy said it was a really good idea. I don't know, this
Okay.
YouTuber said it was a good idea. So I'm like, okay, now that's one thing, but now tell me, how do you personally use it? How has it worked for you? And it's amazing the amount of indicators that are there, just flashing lights and are useless. And if anything, make a person go into massive analysis paralysis, excuse me, and just become stressful. So the best way to simplify is take every single indicator and every single chart and be like, is this really helping me? And once you realize, wait, maybe not, you started to simplify it, and that's how you could slowly get to what's really working for you.
Is there a certain number of indicators that you would say is like no more than X?
It's really hard to tell. A lot of people like to do many different things. I personally have 2 indicators. That's all I use now.
Okay.
But I also use a tick chart. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a tick chart. TradingView does not have ticks, but I think you could code it in, but it doesn't give it to you automatically. And actually,
Oh, the screen froze. Are you still there? Can you hear me?
oh, hello. Oh,
Yeah, I
that was
hear you.
weird. Can you
Yeah,
can you see me?
it cut out for a minute, but it looks like you're back.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you were talking about
So
the tick charts.
right. So ticks are every single candle or bar, whatever you're using, has a certain amount of transactions that goes on. So I use a 610 tick chart. That means every single candle has 610 transactions in real time. And I actually have a tick counter that shows me the exact amount that is happening, right? And I see the volatility, I see the volume, and that's real time. So what happens there is I'm able to completely remove my volume indicator, because a lot of people love a volume indicator to see what's going on, but this way you could actually see in real time. So that's another way you could start to simplify, right? You could start to see what are the different aspects that you can make it easy. So it's hard to tell. Personally, I think if you're using 2 or 3, that's probably at the sweet spot. After that, it's just too much analysis paralysis, right? You're just depending on too many of those things coming together, and I don't think that works.
What did you think of the chart that we pulled up before? Well, when I was showing you before the show started, but we were talking for a few minutes before the show started, and I was showing Marina the trade that I put on today, and yeah, like I'm curious now.
Well, you're swing trading. So I think swing trading, it's a different first of all, you're on a different time frame, right? Like you're not going to be looking at the 1 minute, the 5 minute, right? So it's not as quick. Because I am a scalper, I can't look at the longer ones. They're useless to me. I don't care what happened in 10 minutes.
Makes sense.
So when you're swing trading, it's kind of like if you're investing, you could also look at many different things because you're not in that moment right there, right now, right here. You have to, okay, you're in and out. I'm in, and now you're going to hold it. You're holding it overnight. Sometimes it could be a week. Sometimes it could even be a month. So it's a very different strategy, right? For scalping, I do not really, I recommend one instrument at a time. So you're only focusing on that one. If you're bored with that one, close it, open up the other, put your mind into that strategy, right? Because Apple does not move like Tesla. Tesla does not move like Pfizer. So you need to, really see what works and and also understand your time frame. So if you're doing scalping, do you really want to be at an hour, chart? It's really difficult. So that's something you need to also really understand what your style is, right?
Yeah, definitely. Want to open it up for the Q&A. Like we've already been talking for 45 minutes here. Time is just flying by.
I
And
know.
yeah, so everybody that's here, that's live, get your questions in. Get your questions in. While we're getting other people's questions into the chat here, I also wanted to put your contact information up. So you could contact Marina. She's at the Trader Chick on Instagram. Her website is thetraderchick.com. Where else can people find you?
So everything with the Trader Chick. That's pretty much it. I'm also on YouTube, but you could just use thetraderchick.com and it has everything right there for you to be able to access.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's see. What else? What else? Well, when it comes to indicators, right? Because and just like look, like I had indicator screens, right? Like so. This is have you ever read Jack Schwager's Market Wizards?
No, I haven't read that one.
So it's a fantastic book series. So Jack Schwager interviewed the top traders, not like across the globe, and he started this series. I want to say like maybe uh, 20 years ago. And you have so many different walks of life, people trading stocks, futures, commodities, you name it, like all different styles. And what you started to learn, what you see is that one person trades this way, the other person trades the complete opposite way, and both of them could be completely successful. So, to your point before, you have two indicators. I have half a dozen, and there's 6 screens over here. So, yeah, it's a matter of like figuring out like what works best for you as an individual.
Yeah.
I also
So
think too. Yeah.
if you want to travel, it's hard to do with 6 monitors.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Exactly.
I could bring my laptop pretty much anywhere. So that was also a very important thing for me, how to simplify my trading in that respect as well.
Mm. Do you so yeah, now I'm curious too. Like, do you execute from your laptop only, or are you trading off of your phone as well?
No, because like I mentioned earlier, I'm with Ninja Trader. I'm not affiliated with them. I actually really am kind of losing a little bit of my joy with them. But because I've been doing it for so long, my broker's attached to them, they don't have an app.
Mm.
So you can't do anything on your phone. My husband, like I mentioned earlier, loves TradingView, and he's doing it from his tablet, from his phone, from his everywhere. And it's a beautiful software like that. Ninja, it's not that good, and you can't even use it on Macs. So,
Mm.
but because I've been doing it for so long, and I actually started on a Mac, I had to get my Mac like programmed to do Windows. It was too much work. So there's so many amazing softwares right now that you can do on your tablet, on your iPad, whatever, or phone. I recommend looking into those, right? And this way you could do a lot more with just, in your hand.
Mm. I think it's beautiful too that your husband is getting into trading now. Do you have plans to teach your kids how to trade?
Yeah, so my kids are really becoming more and more questioning a lot, right? So crypto is obviously the buzzword. So we've been taking like crypto for kids online because I'm also relatively new to
Crypto
the
for kids?
crypto
What's that?
world. So
I've
they
never heard
have
of that. What's crypto for
OutSchool.
kids?
No, so there's this platform called OutSchool. I don't know if you ever heard of
Okay.
OutSchool. Check it out,
No.
outschool.com, and then just put in crypto or
Okay.
NFTs. And they have quite a lot of courses geared for kids from like 7 to 18, like different
Wow.
stuff. So we've been doing that because I'm kind of hoping that the teacher can be a little bit more, it's easier to explain to for a kid. So, and we've been having a lot of conversations around that. I think crypto is just really fun, especially now with the NFT world, like these 12-year-olds making millions. So my kids are all hyped up and all these influencers are constantly talking about that stuff. So it's easy for them to get interested, but unfortunately they don't realize how much work goes behind it. These kids, they're also, their minds are a little bit different than the average person. So yes, we are definitely doing a lot. So my husband's a professor, so he is able
Okay.
to teach much better, especially to kids. To adults, I'm good, but with kids, it's a different conversation. So
Mm.
he has been actually showing his journey, and that's been kind of fun.
Oh, very cool. All right. One last thing before we go, there's a question of the day. This is for you to ask the audience. So any question, trading related, not trading related, whatever you want to ask the audience, ask them the question of the day, and they can drop an answer in the comments and ponder it later on too.
So a lot of people want to trade, and I get that. I think it's awesome. My question really would be is like, what do you really want to get out of trading? If it's just something that you want to do fun here or there, that's cool, but you have to accept it. But if you actually really want to make this something a career, like I said, you could do a career with 1 hour per day. You have to, the question of the day is, what do you really want to get out of it? Because it's two different things, right? If it's a hobby, you could check it out once in a while. But if you're really committed, you need to, put in different kind of work. So that's something that I think a lot of people don't really ask themselves is, what do I really want to do with my trade? What is it I really want to do with the trading? Right. And then I think the answer for the next step will come after you understand, like, yeah, this is what I really want to do. Or yeah, I still like my job, and I want to just like play around and maybe make a little bit of extra money. Very differently. So I personally recommend asking yourself, what do I really want out of trading? And that will take you to the next step.
It's a fantastic question. Everybody check out Marina, the Trader Chick, on Instagram at thetraderchick.com. This has been a real pleasure. I'm so glad that we got to connect on here and chat for a bit.
Thank you. Yeah, same here. Me too. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks
All
everybody
right,
for joining us.
100. All right, take care. Have a great rest of your day. And
Thank you.
we'll see everybody around.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.